Most people move through life believing that their endless acts of kindness, patience, and loyalty are proof of their moral superiority. They congratulate themselves for being good, labeling self-sacrifice as virtue and emotional endurance as strength. But beneath this comforting illusion lies a grim truth. You can destroy yourself while believing you are doing the right thing. What you call love may actually be a self-imposed punishment. What you call loyalty may actually be blind submission. What you call goodness may actually be naivety. In the cold light of reality, these acts without boundaries are self-sabotage. Human nature is not kind. Society teaches us to save, help, forgive, and endure, but it rarely prepares us for the hard truth. Not everyone wants to be saved. Many people are not looking for guidance. They're looking for a lifeline to cling to while remaining submerged in chaos. They're not interested in growth or change. They are invested in stagnation. And when you offer your energy, time, or resources to these individuals, you become their anchor, pulling yourself down while they float safely on your sacrifices. You have encountered these people before. The friend forever engulfed in crisis, the partner whose presence demands your emotional currency while offering nothing but tension in return, the family member who consumes your financial stability and energy without gratitude, only resentment. The natural instinct is to intervene, to fix, to rescue, and to heal. Yet, no amount of patience or love will transform them. Machiavelli, centuries ago, warned that those who try to be good constantly among the not good are destined for ruin. Unconditional compassion without discernment is not a virtue, it is a vulnerability. The underlying mechanism is the savior complex. You've been conditioned to equate your value with your utility, to measure worth by how much suffering you can endure for others. Saying no feels like betrayal, and self-preservation feels selfish, but in truth, energy, focus, and time are finite. Every unit of your effort spent on someone unwilling to grow is a unit lost forever. It is not just wasted, it is a strategic error that compromises your own future. Imagine your life as a vessel navigating turbulent seas. It has limited provisions, space, and endurance. Allowing every person who seeks refuge into your life does not create sanctuary. It creates overload and eventual collapse. Leadership, whether over a nation, a business, or your own existence, requires ruthless discernment. Survival demands the capacity to prioritize and to exclude. Sometimes, the most compassionate act is non-interference. To allow someone to face the consequences of their own actions is to grant them the only opportunity for genuine transformation. Constantly shielding them from reality only extends their weakness and deepens your depletion. This is not cruelty, it is clarity. It is the hard acknowledgement that your primary responsibility is not to fix others, but to preserve the integrity, energy, and trajectory of your own life. Recognizing this is the first step in moving from naive savior to strategic sovereign, ensuring that your kindness empowers rather than destroys both you and those who are capable of growth. The first types of people you must learn to avoid are those who drain you through chaos and entitlement. The architect of chaos is the individual whose life is a continuous series of disasters, each more dramatic than the last. Every conversation with them begins with a new emergency, a lost job, a broken relationship, a financial collapse, a betrayal. Initially, your empathy is stirred. You step in, offering advice, assistance, or a shoulder to lean on, believing your intervention will make a difference. For a fleeting moment, there is calm. But the tranquility is temporary. Inevitably, a new crisis erupts and you find yourself back at the starting point. This pattern persists not because they are unlucky, but because they are unwilling or unable to develop the judgment, discipline, and self-awareness required to stabilize their lives. They make impulsive decisions, ignore red flags, and antagonize the people around them. They rarely accept responsibility for their actions, instead blaming external circumstances for every setback. When you try to save them, their chaos becomes your own. Their misfortune is not just psychological, it becomes tangible, impacting your reputation, finances, and emotional well-being. Every rescue operation you undertake strengthens their reliance on external support, further perpetuating the cycle of instability. The second type, the bottomless pit, is equally destructive but operates on entitlement rather than incompetence. These individuals consume your energy, attention, and resources, not out of desperation, but because they feel entitled to it. Initially, they may express gratitude, creating the illusion of reciprocal respect. But gratitude is fleeting. As they grow comfortable, their expectations intensify. When you hesitate, delay, or refuse, they react with anger, guilt-tripping, or passive-aggressive behavior. Their need for validation transforms into resentment, and dependence becomes a breeding ground for contempt. The danger of the bottomless pit lies in its psychological mechanics. When someone becomes reliant on your generosity, they experience both the security and the subtle humiliation of dependence. Deep down, they despise the very strength that sustains them, because it highlights their own inadequacy. Your assistance, meant as kindness, becomes a mirror of their weakness. They cannot see your efforts as gifts. They see them as obligations, debts owed. Over time, they manipulate your willingness to help to create a cycle of unending service, constantly drawing from you while offering nothing in return. Interacting with these individuals is emotionally exhausting. You are trapped in a cycle where every act of kindness reinforces their dependence and erodes your autonomy. The pattern is predictable. The more you help, the more they take. The more they take, the more resentful they become. And eventually, your own well-being begins to collapse under the weight of their entitlement. Machiavelli's wisdom resonates here. Unlimited compassion without boundaries is a liability. It is not a reflection of virtue, but a conduit for self-destruction. The antidote to this drain is strategic detachment. You must recognize that your resources, time, energy, and attention are finite and valuable. They are to be invested with intention, not squandered on individuals who neither seek growth nor accept responsibility. To protect yourself, you need to establish firm boundaries and enforce them consistently. Refuse to enable destructive patterns and do not allow guilt or social pressure to manipulate your decisions. Distance is not cruelty. It is a calculated defense to preserve your life, your goals, and your future. In essence, the architect of chaos and the bottomless pit are test cases for the limits of human generosity. They force you to confront uncomfortable truths about human nature and the cost of overextending yourself. Attempting to save them is not noble. It is a tactical mistake that compromises your own stability. Recognizing this is the first step toward reclaiming your power and learning to allocate your energy only to those who are capable of growth, gratitude, and responsible self-determination. In doing so, you preserve your resources, protect your peace, and prepare yourself to focus on those who genuinely deserve your time and effort. The next category of people drains you through envy, victimhood, and willful ignorance. The third type, the smiling saboteur, appears friendly and supportive on the surface, yet harbors deep-seated resentment toward your growth and achievements. They were comfortable when you were equal or struggling, but your progress threatens their ego and sense of self-worth. They do not confront you openly. Instead, they cloak their envy in concern. They offer advice that subtly undermines your confidence, warn you about risks you have already considered, and temper your excitement with doubt disguised as caution. Every compliment and word of support carries a hidden sting. The goal of the smiling saboteur is not your safety or well-being. It is to keep you stagnant, to ensure that your successes do not reflect their failures. Sharing your plans, triumphs, or ambitions with them is dangerous, because they will either consciously or subconsciously work to derail your momentum. The solution lies in strategic concealment. Reveal as little as possible. Speak in measured terms, downplay victories, and maintain privacy around your aspirations. Let them believe you are ordinary, struggling, or even slightly unsuccessful while you advance quietly. Silence and discretion are your shields. The fourth type, the professional victim, is equally consuming but operates differently. Unlike genuine victims who seek resolution, growth, or relief, the professional victim constructs an identity from suffering. Their fragility becomes a tool, and their weaknesses a source of leverage over others. They resist solutions, reject ladders offered to help them climb, and make themselves heavier in every act of assistance. Your attempts to support them only reinforce their identity and ensure that dependence remains permanent. Professional victims are skilled at turning your generosity into guilt. When you finally stop, when you withdraw assistance, or when you impose boundaries, they often transform you into the villain. Your refusal to perpetually carry their weight is framed as cruelty, abandonment, or betrayal. They rewrite narratives to make your compassion appear inadequate, ensuring that the cycle of emotional manipulation continues even in your absence. The fifth type is the arrogant fool. This individual is not merely ignorant. They are actively resistant to knowledge and insight. They repeat mistakes despite evidence and guidance, not because they cannot understand, but because accepting truth would require humility, which they reject. Logical arguments are perceived as attacks. Reality is dismissed if it contradicts their ego. Attempting to save them or correct their path is futile. your efforts will be met with ridicule, debate, or stubborn denial. Silence becomes your strongest tool. Allow the world to teach consequences, because only reality can penetrate closed minds. These three types: those who envy, those who weaponize their suffering, and those who are obstinately ignorant, drain your energy not through misfortune or entitlement, but through psychological and emotional manipulation. Interacting with them without strategic awareness results in frustration, exhaustion, and emotional depletion. To survive, you must cultivate discretion, recognize manipulative patterns, and implement strict boundaries. Your energy must be reserved for those capable of growth, accountability, and genuine reciprocity, ensuring that your time and effort are invested where they yield meaningful results and not wasted on the unyielding or self-serving. The final category encompasses the most destructive individuals, habitual betrayers and repeat offenders, often referred to as the scorpion. This type is profoundly damaging because they exploit loyalty, forgiveness, and trust to continue their destructive patterns. They are the ones who break promises repeatedly, betray confidences, and manipulate those closest to them. Despite your repeated interventions and forgiveness, they continue their behavior, exploiting your goodwill and reinforcing their own destructive habits. The scorpion operates on the principle of nature. It cannot act otherwise. Just as a scorpion stings because it is in its nature, these individuals betray because betrayal is embedded in their character. No amount of forgiveness, counseling, or guidance will change them. Every act of mercy is a lesson for them in endurance rather than morality. Each time you take them back, you signal that their harmful actions have no consequences, and you inadvertently train them to continue harming you and others. Dealing with the scorpion requires one of the most difficult actions in human behavior: total separation. Partial measures keeping them at a distance, minimizing contact, or attempting to enforce gradual change are ineffective and often exacerbate the cycle of harm. Complete, irrevocable removal from your life is the only strategy that protects your well-being. This action is painful, as it often feels like severing a part of yourself, but it is necessary to prevent emotional, psychological, and sometimes even physical harm from continuing. This process will attract judgment. Others may label you as cruel, heartless, or selfish. They may see your refusal to continually forgive as callousness. But true wisdom understands the distinction between cruelty and clarity, between selfishness and self-preservation. Protecting your life, energy, and peace is not an act of malice. It is an act of strategic foresight. Those who criticize your choices often fail to see the hidden costs of repeated rescues and the long-term depletion caused by engaging with individuals who cannot change. The ultimate lesson is the transition from savior to sovereign. A savior sacrifices their own stability to prop up others, often to their detriment. A sovereign, by contrast, preserves their strength and structure, offering light and guidance without being dragged into destructive cycles. Those who are willing to change will seek out the guidance and use it responsibly. Those who are bound to fail will do so, but without pulling you into their ruin. Maintaining this perspective allows you to reclaim energy, focus on your goals, and establish a life built on stability and intentionality. When you stop attempting to save the unsavable, a transformation occurs. You regain your time, clarity, and peace of mind. Your finances stabilize, your health improves, and your focus sharpens. You begin to cultivate relationships with individuals who are capable of growth, who value your input, and who respect boundaries. This practice of selective engagement is the true source of power, not the ability to endure suffering for others, but the ability to allocate your energy toward those who are worthy. Ultimately, the path of the sovereign is one of discernment, self-preservation, and the mastery of letting go.